I'm going to start with my little spiel in the morning. I'm starting here. All right, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us again for Syncretize, blog about mission and meaning in the communities that are all around us. Today, I'm going to bring in my co host, our super producer, young man who happens to share the same last name as me, and that is Micah Brooks. Micah, go ahead and wave to the people. Thank you
Hello.
very much. And then we're gonna come back to me. And today we've been trying to delve into different communities and what creates community, what does community mean, and what kind of meaning people get out of the communities that they are a part of. And many times we find people that are accomplished in different careers and ways of life, yet still are also they also are a part of another community, maybe an artistic community or an exercise community. Well, today we are going to be joined by someone who is in an academic community, but that's not what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about his enjoyment and love of acting. So I want to introduce in, and today we're not going to have him on screen, but we will have a picture of him up so you can see him. But he's going to be able to talk to us a little bit about what it means for him to be an actor, and that is none other than Dr. Tim Golden. Brother Tim, can you talk right there?
I certainly can, Pastor. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm grateful for you and the efforts of your intrepid producer, who is, is very much on the case. So
Yes.
I am humbled and honored to have been invited on your podcast today. And I'm grateful for this opportunity. So thank you so much for having me.
No problem. No problem. We appreciate you being with us today, and we're going to have some fun. That's the whole thing. A lot of times, and especially in the world in which we live, there's a lot of heavy stuff. And Dr. Tim, I follow you on Twitter, and I know that you can talk about some heavy things. But today, we want to keep it a little lighter, and but at the same time, be able to delve into the meaning we can find in the things that we value and how we like to spend our time when we're not, or for you, Dr. Tim, when you're not knee deep in academia. So, Dr. Tim, I'd love to ask you this question right here to start off. How did you begin in acting? What drew you to acting?
What drew me to acting, Pastor, was a couple of things. There were a number of people who, over the years, had made remarks to me about my voice,
Uh huh.
and they said, "Oh, Tim, you've got a great voice. You should. Do you sing, or do you do theater, or have you ever acted?" And after a while, when I mean, it's always nice to receive compliments.
Right.
And so after hearing this, you know, for a long time, I be several years, and it was around 2011 that
Hmm.
it got really, really intense because I was living in Memphis at the time. I was about to graduate from finish graduate school, and I remember I would go into a local bank for ordinary banking transactions, and I sort of got to know the people who worked behind the counter. And I remember going in there this one day early in 2011, and the ladies were just laughing and giggling as I approached the counter. And I said, "What's wrong? Did I miss a joke?" And one of the ladies said, "Well, my coworker down the end just likes to hear you talk. So could you say something for us? You know." And at that point, after I sort of tried to stop myself from blushing, remember walking out of the bank that day, not only very flattered, but really impressed that maybe I kept doing this because it was something I was supposed to be doing.
Mm.
Maybe it was something I should investigate, right? Maybe it was the kind of thing that I could really use. Maybe God really did give me a talent that I just haven't tapped into yet. And so that was in January or February of 2011. And in 2011, I graduated and I started a new job as an academic at a university just outside of Philadelphia. And the transition was so significant that I said I won't do anything this year, but next year I'm going to take my first. I'm going to take an acting class,
Oh,
and
okay.
it was, there was a play that was being performed at my local church in Philadelphia in the spring of 2012. And again, I had gone through too much my first academic year, so I didn't do it that year. But what I said to myself was that I would do it the next year. So in the fall of 2012, I took my first acting class. And then in the spring of 2013, I performed in my first play at my local church in Philadelphia. And after I performed in that play, the director of the play, who is very well connected in the Philadelphia theater community, told me that she thought that I had a real aptitude for this and that I should keep doing it. So I began taking acting classes at the Walnut Street Theater in Philadelphia. I took a beginner's class, an intermediate class. I enrolled in the advanced class. And after about a year of taking these classes, I decided that it was time for me to go and try to audition. And so I began to audition and I got cast. And that's sort of how it all got started. So I've been doing it now for just about 7 years.
Okay. Oh man, that is pretty awesome, and it's wonderful to hear. I think there is some value to having people who are encouraging to you, even with talents you don't believe that you have. I think there's something that we can learn from that, being able to encourage other people. I got another question for you, Dr. Tim. In the last now 7, 8 years that you've been doing, that you've been acting along with your academic career, what has been the high point if you've had one?
The high point for me of my acting career thus far has been the portrayal of a character named Hambone in August Wilson's play Two Trains Running.
Okay.
August play Two Trains Running is the story of an African American community in Pittsburgh that congregates in and around a diner owned by the main character whose name is Memphis Lee.
Uh huh.
And my character, Hambone, is one of the characters who frequents this diner. And my character was interesting because he only has two lines throughout the entire show. I'll tell you what those two lines are in just a minute. I'll give you a little bit about his backstory.
Sure.
So, Hambone is a character from the neighborhood who, according to the script, he painted a fence for a white man who owned a butcher shop across the street from the diner. And he painted the fence on the promise that the white man was going to give him a ham when he finished. Well, Hambone painted the fence, but when he finished painting the fence, he went to get his ham, and the owner of the butcher shop, this white man who promised him a ham, offered him a chicken instead.
Huh.
And so Hambone has two lines throughout the play. And the two lines, the only two things he says throughout the entire play are, I want my ham, he gonna give me my ham. That's all he says. He doesn't say anything else. And as the story unfolds in the play, you discover that Hambone has been going to this white man's butcher shop every day for 10 years, 7 days a week, meeting him at the front door,
Uh-huh.
demanding to see his hand, and he has not received it yet. And I think that this character is so meaningful to me
Mm-hmm.
because August Wilson found a way to have this one character embody the entire African American experience. Or what is the African American experience if it is not being on the receiving end of a broken promise? We have
Ooh.
been promised
Ooh, yeah.
and don't have the promises of American democracy seem strangely not to apply to African Americans. And so the spirit of Hambone, his persistence, his what the theologian would call his importunity. He's like the woman uh, who was trying to get justice from the unjust judge,
Right.
right? His dignity. He didn't want a chicken. He wanted a hand. He
Right.
wanted what was promised to him. And for me, as an actor, to portray that role and to do it in a way that the audience could see the pain, could see the frustration, could see how heavily it had weighed on him was the highest form of trust that could have been placed in me by a director and the highest form of artistic performance that I could have ever tried to deliver as an actor. So playing that role was the highlight for me of my acting career, and I was nominated for by the Portland area Theater Alliance. I was nominated for an award for Best Supporting Actor. I didn't win, but I was nominated, and that was a high point too. So that's my high point, I think.
That is amazing for 2 lines. Yet there is so much packed in to what that character embodied and meant. That is utterly amazing. And then even have you they looked at your performance as being worthy enough to have award recognition. That's even like a step up. It's like, hey, we see you. We really see you. I think that is amazing. So then you have not been an actor like since a child. Is that correct?
That is correct. I have not been an actor since a child, and it's funny because I came to acting just 7 years ago formally, but as I look back on my career, both as a college professor and as a lawyer, there's a theatrical component to both of those occupations as well, right? I
Yeah.
have stood before juries and argued cases. I've stood before judges and argued cases. I stand before a classroom full of students and lecture about philosophy. So there is certainly a theater to the classroom, a theater to the courtroom. And when I look back over my career to this point, it seems like the stage was the next sort of step for me. So I guess when people ask me what I do, I tell them that I'm a professional storyteller. In the classroom, I tell the story of philosophy. In the courtroom, I tell stories of my clients who need legal representation. And on the stage, I tell stories of characters in an attempt to get the audience to reflect and leave the theater in a manner very different from when they came. Hopefully, one that results in self improvement.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So I'm gonna give Micah an opportunity. Micah, you ready? You got a couple of questions? You can unmute yourself and then you can ask your question.
Yeah, okay. Well, you took one of my questions, which was high point, but I guess I could sort of frame that question differently, maybe. First question: what do you think you would be doing if you never got into acting? Like, what would be your main focus?
If I wasn't acting at all, I would. Well, I guess I could take right now as an example because of the coronavirus pandemic. Obviously, live theater is not an option and has not been. So, I was actually performing in a play when the pandemic began, and the last three performances of that play were canceled back in March. And since then, I have been devoting all of my energies to my academic work. Right now, I'm working on two book proposals and finishing other book manuscripts and other scholarly related materials. So I would have to say that if I wasn't acting, I would probably just be doing academics, and I'm on my way back into the courtroom at some point too. So I probably would just be doing those two things.
Okay.
Wow.
Second question: what do you think would be your favorite play out of all the plays that you've ever been in? Not just talking from the standpoint of a favorite character that you may have played, but your favorite play of all time, the entire story. Which one was your favorite?
My favorite play of all time is probably a play by August Wilson called King Hedley II. And King Hedley II is a story of a man named King. It takes place in 1985 in Pittsburgh. And King is the play opens with a monologue by a character named Stool Pigeon. And Stool Pigeon plays the role of the chorus in Greek tragedy. In Greek tragedy, what happens is the chorus comes out and tells you the end of the play from the beginning. They tell you what's going to happen. And what makes tragedy tragic, if I may use that,
You're allowed.
what makes tragedy tragic is that the characters in the show, despite their best efforts, while they believe that they can determine their own fate and their own destiny. They really can't. And
Mm.
Stu reminds the audience that God is in control of human affairs, and he says toward the end of his monologue that he says, God knows the beginning and the end. He lets you play around in the middle, but he got it all written down. And so the play opens with this tragic commentary. And in the opening scene, the main character, King, is trying to plant some seeds. And you get the sense that he understands the difference between what it means to be buried and what it means to be planted.
Mm.
And that all he knows as a black man in Ronald Reagan's criminal justice policies in America, he may be buried. He's trying to plant seed for the future. And so he almost sort of understands his fate, but he's trying to overcome it any way he can. And the story sort of unfolds from there. That's probably my favorite play. Uh, yes. Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you
I
have
have one final question.
one more? Okay.
If you have you ever okay, well, I guess this is two wrapped in one, but have you ever thought about writing your own play? And if so, what would it be about?
I have written a screenplay
Oh,
for
cool.
a short film. I have written one. I gave it to a friend of mine who owns a film production company, asked for his feedback, And the feedback that I got was that I needed to take a screenwriting class. So I am working hard on that. The pandemic has just sort of put everything on hold. What I would love to do is hop in my car and drive all the way down the Pacific Coast to Los Angeles and enroll in a screenwriters class for a workshop for a day or 2 days or 3 days or however long they are. But I've written a script for a short film, and the film is called Suffering in Silence, and it is about the emotional abuse of men. And
Mm,
so that's what it's about. It's based on some of my own experiences as a man, having suffered emotional abuse in a marital relationship, and
mm,
I'm hoping that as I hone my screenwriting skills and get better, that it doesn't have to be on the big screen, but I hope to star in it myself as myself, and
yeah.
hopefully it can be a short film that will raise awareness about what I think is a very serious and under-examined problem in our world today. So, yep.
Good. Uh,
Nice. Anything else, Micah?
nope, but I have a
Uh,
hypothetical now.
Okay, all
So,
right. I want you to hold on to your hypothetical. Thank you, Micah, and thank you, Dr. Tim. I got some more for you. Really appreciate how you. I noticed something in your conversation as it relates to the plays that the play that you had, your high point, as well as the play that you loved the most. I believe they were both from August Wilson. Is it your intention to focus in on African American playwrights, or is that just happens to be, hey, that those were the things that I enjoyed right there, but I like it all.
So I think both of those things are true. Uh,
Okay.
I I have I have my goal as an actor. So August Wilson wrote 10 plays, and each play was about a different decade of African American life in the 20th century, right?
Okay.
And so one of my goals as an actor, is to perform in all 10 of August
Mm.
Wilson plays. I have thus far performed in three of them. I've
Wow.
performed in I've performed in Two Trains Running as Hambone. I have performed in The Piano Lesson as a
Mm.
character named Whining Boy,
Yeah.
and I have performed in Fences of
Hey.
Denzel Washington and Viola
Yeah.
Davis.
Uh
That
huh.
that one was made into a movie.
Yes.
Well, I performed in the stage play Fences as a character named Jim Bono.
Okay.
So those are the three August Wilson plays that I've done. I want to do. I have seven to go. So
Yeah.
I've got my fingers crossed, and I'm hoping that I can get to audition and actually perform in the other seven. So yes, I have a deep interest in August Wilson and his work, but I'm also interested in theater generally. One
Mm-hmm.
of my dream roles is in to play King Henry VIII in a
Ah.
play called The Lion in Winter, and it's
Yes.
the story of the king and his sons are fighting over the throne. So I've performed in two Shakespeare plays. I performed as Leontes, the King of Sicily,
Uh
in The
huh.
Winter's Tale, and I performed as Shylock in The Merchant of Venice.
Yeah.
So I love all of theater. I look forward to doing more Shakespeare, some other maybe contemporary theatrical pieces, but I'm also a huge fan of August Wilson. So I like it all, but
Yeah.
I especially like August Wilson. Yes.
Oh man, that's awesome. I am a play neophyte. Everything you're saying, like, oh, I remember that. I remember hearing that. I've heard that before. So all of it is just sounds exciting to me, to be able to be involved in that sort of a thing and to know it, especially when you've only been immersed in this community for the last 8 years. I've got a question for you as it relates to the acting community. What is it about the acting community that gives you that gives meaning to you? And I'll just stop there. What is it about the acting community that provides meaning for you? I'll leave it at that.
It is a sense of unconditional acceptance, a sense of camaraderie, a sense of teamwork, uh, deep moral issues of trust and confidence, everything from learning your lines to showing up at rehearsal to making sure that you do your best. In live theater, there's not a lot of room for mistakes, and your castmates depend on you to deliver. So there's a real moral imperative to learn your lines and to work on your craft and hone your performance skills so that the performance achieves what it's intended to achieve. People may take this for granted, but there's so much at stake in a theatrical performance because, to put it in Christian theological terms, the playwright has given the actors the word, but the actors are the word made flesh.
Yay.
And except the word be made flesh and be embodied in the sinew and fluid and heart and mind of the actor, the story falls flat. And
Mm.
so what I absolutely love about the theater community is the warmth and acceptance and the vulnerability that it demands. So on one hand, the theater community provides a safe space for actors to be creative, but on the other hand, it also demands a high level of accountability, and that juxtaposition of acceptance creates a sense of gratitude in you that helps you be more accountable, that
Mm.
makes you want to, that that you trust, that you're grateful that the director has cast you, because in casting you for this show, you have been entrusted with the story of the playwright, and there's a sense in which you want to justify that confidence placed in you. So the theater community is a is the site of giving, acceptance, and compassion, and it's the site of taking and demanding accountability and excellence. And that's what I love about the theater community.
My goodness, make me want to be an actor. Lord Jesus, listen to him. Michael, what you think of that answer there? Oh, you're muted, Micah.
That is a lot more than I expected.
You didn't think there was that much to
Being really
acting, did
honest.
you?
Nope.
Well, here we go, Dr. Tim. I got one more. This is the other question I wanted to ask, and I think I gave you a preamble to this earlier. Is in listening to everything you just said about what you gain or the meaning found in the acting community, what do you think the church community can learn from the acting community?
The church community can learn to accept people as they are without trying to change them, love people as they are without trying to change them. And I hate to say this, but it's true, the church can learn not to stifle creativity. And
Mm.
this is disturbing to me because many Christians, I mean, Christians claim to serve a God who is a creator.
Yeah.
And we are made in his image, which means that we are also creators. And
Okay, say that.
if we are creators and we are made in the image of God, then we create on a much smaller scale, obviously, as he creates. Well, what do I mean? Well, when you open the scriptures to Genesis, the
Yeah.
first three verses tell you everything you need to know. It says
Yeah.
that in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And in verse 2, it says, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And in verse 3, it says, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. Now let's think about that for a moment. Nothing is created until the Spirit moves. When
Mm-hmm.
the moves in verse 2, then God speaks and creates. It's similar for us in our lives. When people write poetry or do an artistic performance on a stage like acting, there is an inspiration, there is a movement of the spirit that prompts us to create even as God created. And yet, despite this wonderful theological paradigm that we have, and despite our claims that we worship a creator, we then turn around and stifle all of our creative impulses.
Mercy.
And this is unfortunate. I think that one of the things that the church can learn from the theater community is not to stifle creativity. We want to allow people to be able to express themselves in ways that are artistic and meaningful for them, because that is really the essence of godliness.
Mm.
I am most like God when I am performing, not because I am God, but because in my attempt to create, I am imitating God.
Mm.
The church ought to encourage that spirit of artistic creativity and not stifle it. So I would hope that the church could sit back and look at the theater community and say, you know, we got to do a better job in this area, especially since we purport to serve a God who is a creator. We ought to get down to the business of being creative ourselves.
Mm. Mm. I love that. I love that. And I think, moreover, within the black preaching tradition, it seems, is the only place where people, or even singing, is where it seems we're allowed to be creative. Yet, in so many other aspects, there is creativity within the church. We just don't highlight it enough. What do you think keeps us from being able to highlight the creativity within the church?
I think there's a fear. I think there's a fear, and it's one thing to condemn the sort of the lax morals of Hollywood culture, right?
Okay.
I get
Yeah.
that. I get that. I understand that, right? But it's another thing to say that acting as a creative endeavor is somehow intrinsically evil. I think we have to learn to separate the notion of artistic performance from the decadence of a culture that probably should be condemned morally,
Mm,
right?
mm, mm-hmm.
So, but I think we don't see it that way, right? I think we sort of lump everything together and we just say, "Oh, I don't want any parts of that." Mind you, what's fascinating to me about acting is how deeply spiritual it is.
Okay.
Because to me, acting is just like fasting. Because
Okay.
when I fast, I am denying myself that I may hear from God, or I'm denying myself for the benefit of a friend or a loved one. I'm
Mm,
fasting and praying for someone, right? So I'm engaged in this act of self denial for the benefit of someone else. And that's precisely what happens to an actor. If you see me perform and you say, "Oh, that's Tim acting," I'm not really doing a good job. In order for me to be a good actor, I have to
yes.
take Tim and I
Uh-huh.
have to deny myself for the
Huh.
sake of the character.
Yeah.
So I cannot become Hambone, for instance, if I am being Tim. And if I'm Tim saying, "I want my ham," he's going to give me my ham. The story is not told the way it's supposed to be told. And as a result, the wonderful message of August Wilson, which is a message of importunity in the face of an overwhelming oppression, never gets received. And so there's a failure of stewardship
Mm,
insofar as I have not adequately managed the trust of this role, because I have the role not for the benefit of myself, but for the enrichment of all those in the audience who come to see it. And I have an opportunity to tell a story and have them leave morally improved.
mm, mm.
So there's a lot at stake in the theatrical performance. And if I am not engaged in the proper degree of fasting, of self denial, of preparation, so that I can tell that story the way it needs to be told, then it won't have the impact that it was intended to have. And if it doesn't have that impact, then I have missed an opportunity as an actor to contribute to the moral betterment of the world, and indeed, more so as a Christian, to contribute to the moral improvement of the world around me. And that is my trust as a Christian. So it's a matter of stewardship and self denial, which are both very prominent, figure very prominently in the spiritual dimension of acting. And I would hope that the church could learn from that too.
My goodness, brother Tim, I can honestly say I've never thought of acting as that deep. As a matter of fact, most of us are raised thinking of those people who delve into the acting endeavor. While we have respect for their desire to do it, I don't think we ever go as high or even think highly enough of the endeavor to believe that it could ever reach a level of spiritual connectedness that would be akin to a spiritual awakening, even depending on the role. But to hear you talking about even the idea of inhabiting a role as akin to fasting, because I have to deny who I am in order for you to see this character, is that's other, I want to say otherworldly, a whole another level. Micah, what did you think about what Dr. Tim had to say?
I did not know that you could go so in depth on that sort of topic. I'm still confused and trying to put things together in my head right now. Uh, Words, lots of words, go together somehow. I'm just trying to figure out where and when. That was a
I get
lot.
it. It was. It
A
was. And
lot.
but it's super deep, man. And but yes, Micah. Remember, Dr. Tim Micah at one point in his early years said he wanted to be an actor, and then he moved on to saying he wanted to do voice acting. And Micah, is that still something that's in your mind to do?
Yes, I think that'd be fun.
Okay, but
I mean,
hearing, go ahead.
yeah, Peter and Micah, if you think about it, I mean, think about the great performances that you've seen on the screen, right? I mean, would if you just think about Denzel Washington's character Alonzo Harris in Training Day,
You
right?
wouldn't know that.
And what it took for him to deny himself as Denzel Washington, right? To
Hmm.
become this personification
Of
of
evil.
evil, right?
Yeah.
In such a way that there are people who don't like Denzel Washington to this day because he played that role so well, because he told the story so well.
Hmm.
And that's one of the things that I think is just so amazing about acting is that it has helped me to tap into my creative capacities in ways that I never thought were possible. And that is divine. There is
Mm.
something profoundly spiritual and deeply religious about the acting endeavor to me.
Mm. Mm. That's utterly amazing, and thank you so much, Dr. Tim, for your time this afternoon with us. We're about to get into our last bit of our time together, and normally during this time, we ask Micah to give us a hypothetical, and our other hosts or guests have to we engage with him on his hypothetical. I don't know what this thing is going to be about. He usually can come from anywhere. So I'm going to tell you, just prepare yourself for whatever he's
Okay.
going to say next, because this can be anything. But Micah, take it away.
I I'd say this one is more simple than most.
Okay.
If you could take a character from any media that you've seen before and put your own little spin on it, who would you choose? Like, for instance, give Hambone more than 2 lines. And
That's it. Okay. Great. Dr. Tim, you go first.
I would um I would say I would take Roman J. Israel,
Oh, wow.
play, played by Denzel Washington. I don't know. Have you seen that movie?
no,
I know the movie. I remember the movie as I remember it being as a discussion piece on whether or not the character was autistic or not.
Right.
I remember the movie. I didn't watch it, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Denzel Washington plays he plays a lawyer. So I would either take his character, but I don't know if that adequately answers your question. So let me back up and retract that. And I'll give you another one. I would say Will Smith. Will Smith's character in the film Collateral Beauty. Collateral Beauty.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Uh, it would be interesting to see that character portrayed as a woman.
Hmm.
It would be interesting to see that character with that level of pain portrayed as a woman. And the reason why I say that is because Will Smith did a brilliant job, I think, in that film playing the character that he played. But I say it would be interesting to portray that character as a woman, because when you saw Will Smith in that film, he was alone. He was by himself as a man. He didn't have a lot of support, and that's the condition in which a lot of men find themselves. And I'm curious to see if that character was played as a woman, how much differently it would have had to be portrayed, because women tend to have emotional support systems in our culture that men just don't have. So that's what I would say. Yeah.
Wow, that's good. That's good.
So
All right,
much
Micah.
reasoning behind it.
Yes.
Like, now I feel like I have to give a reason.
Well, you came up with the hypothetical, Micah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, here it is. That was a really good hypothetical, though, because now I'm like, wow, what character would I think about? Or was that only for Dr. Tim? Do we all have to answer?
Yeah, you can answer as well. I'm not answering. I'm not doing this one.
All right,
Nope.
I would think I would attempt to think about the character of, I love my action movies and that sort of a thing, and my favorite action movie is The Matrix. So I would take the character of Neo, and no, I'm not gonna do that one because I would just be gender bending as well. There is a name I love to hear. What is? Oh man, my goodness, Michael, you're gonna have me thinking for a while. I might have to pass on this too. Would you allow me a pass? Or go ahead, Tim.
You're good.
Can I toss one more out there? Just one
Yes,
more?
you can. I'm gonna by proxy. It's mine, but go ahead. You do it.
Okay. I would love to see Joaquin Phoenix's portrayal of the Joker performed as a black man.
Wow, black. I would want to see a black Joker.
Yeah, but I think it'd be for two different reasons.
Yeah, I should say Joaquin Phoenix's performance as the Joker was one of the best performances I've ever seen as an actor. He was phenomenal in that movie. But it would be interesting to see that character, to see a black Joker with that same storyline.
Right.
To see that portrayed, that would be interesting.
That indeed would have been interesting, especially given the time in which that was set, and what we are living through right now. It would have been that would be amazing. But with that, Dr. Tim, I want to tell you thank you for joining with us today. We really appreciate you being with us. Micah, I want to say thank you for your hypothetical, because you made me think. And you always do, so we appreciate your time with us today. And I will say to anyone who's watching, and whenever you watch this video, thank you for watching and sticking with us today for our Syncretize, our weekly conversation about mission and meaning. And today we talked with an actor, and we learned a little bit about the meaning and what acting can mean, and how it can be it elevates us all, or actors, to a higher spiritual level. Man, that's gonna be something I'll be thinking about for a while. But if you are watching this, why don't you like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, so you'll never miss another episode of Syncretize. Was that something you wanted to say, Micah?
Now just saying, destroy the bell. Attack it.
Destroy the bell. You have too many games that you're watching on this YouTube thing. All right, with that, we say everybody says bye. You have a great day. Thank you very much.
Bye.
And thus...